Welcome to the Success Sculpting Show with Stephen Pierce, bringing you the right information right now to sculpt a more meaningful and memorable life of success. Join us each week to discover gems to help you grow your mental toughness, expand your will to win, and multiply your results. It's never been easier to learn what to do and how to do it to succeed at what you choose to do. This is truly an experience you won't find anywhere else. Now, here's your host, the success sculptor himself, Stephen Pierce.
Welcome. Yes, this is Stephen Pierce, and I want to thank you for tuning in to episode number 2 of the Success Sculpting Show. And we're going to be picking up where we left off from episode number 1, obviously. And what we're going to be looking at in this episode is 7 ways of making goals work for you. Now, what you'll be able to find if you're over here on the website at successsculpting.com, you'll see that with this, we have the show notes in the form of an infographic, which will be really cool for you to share on Pinterest or Facebook, Twitter, you name it, your favorite place to get social. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this because this is going to be some extremely powerful stuff because we all set goals, right? Many of us have them in our heads and we don't all the time write them out. But at the end of the day, whether they're in your head or they're on a piece of paper or they're in your computer or they're on your phone or in your tablet, how can we get our goals to work for us instead of working against us? And what I mean by working against us is that sometimes goals can be a focus of frustration. And what that means is that we set these goals, but because we don't see any progress towards achieving them and we tend to constantly come up short, they create this sense of failure, and from that sense of failure, we experience a great deal of frustration. And goals are really important. But what we want to do is we want to look at, following up on what we talked about in episode number 1, where we really got into the era of goal setting. What we want to do is we want to continue this conversation and look at, well, how do we get the goals to work for us? So this is going to be an extremely powerful follow-up to what it is we've already covered. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and take a look at the 7 ways of making goals work for you. And I'll be right back with you because, again, this is going to be a segment from the live stream that we did. So let's go ahead to that segment, and I'll see you on the other side of this segment. All right, so 7 ways to make goals work for you. Okay, let's look at the first 2. Have your outcome, your performance, and your process goals. Not just your outcome goals, but you want to have performance goals. You want to have process goals. Because the whole thing is that whatever the outcome is you're looking to create, there are certain performances and processes that influence that. That's just how it works. But and by identifying what level of performance you need to get to create that outcome, to create that effect, and to understand what processes you need to be mastering. See, the process is not the barrier to the goal. It is the carrier of your goal. It is the absolute carrier of whatever the goal is. Whatever the point is you want to get to, the moment you understand what the process is that will get you there, all of a sudden, you're good. Okay? You're good. You're good because you're focusing on the right thing. It's like, I know what the point is I want to get to. Now let me master the process. Let me master the process. Now, all of a sudden, you're able to identify very specific things. And let me enhance my performance. Who cares if I'm better than the next man or I'm better than the next woman? I'm not doing this. I'm not living my life like this. This is me and this is them. Screw that. I'm living my life like this, where it's like, hey, am I better than I was yesterday? And if I'm better than somebody else by somebody else's comparison, okay, fine. But I'm not going to be, and you shouldn't be, the ball that is bounced and tossed and hit back and forth between low self-esteem, high self-esteem, and low self-esteem, high self-esteem through all these relative comparisons. And here's how it looks. I'm feeling all right. Uh-oh, low self-esteem. Here we go. High self-esteem. Here we go. Low self-esteem. High self-esteem, because you're comparing yourself to others. Oh, they're better than me. So now you have low self-esteem. And now you're like, I'm better than you. So now you have high self-esteem. Forget the esteem altogether. Who are you before all of that? Who are you before the barriers? Who are you before the obstacles? Who are you before the comparisons? The moment you can get back to that place of purity, you can then start to perform the way that you have been built and engineered to perform. It's not about comparing. Here's the thing, though. We're brought up in a society that tends to force these comparisons on us because of the way the entire system has been engineered.
But just because that is the system they engineered and that you tend to exist within, that does not have to mark how you individually live your life. You can understand it, but it doesn't have to become the rule that you live by, right? It's like, I understand that if you run track, the person that crosses the finish line first is considered the winner. But hey, if I run faster today than I did yesterday, then I won today. I won. I may not have won by the standard of the track and field society, but here's the thing. The better I get at my processes, the better I improve my performance, I will probably eventually cross the finish line first. I will probably cross the finish line first, okay? I hope that makes sense to you. All right, now, 3 and 4, okay? Actually, did I tell you number 2? Right, have your target dates of completion. Target dates of completion, right? And now, you can have target times and target dates. Target times can be what it is you're doing for the short term in the moment that you're working on. Like what I was talking about using, like how I like to use the Gym Boss, right? You see that? That's a Gym Boss. You can pick one of those up at Amazon, or you can use an egg timer or whatever. So you have these target times. I'm going to get X amount completed in this amount of time. But then you can have your target dates where by this particular date and another particular date, you're going to have these certain things done and completed. All right. And this is being driven by you. So this right here impacts your performance. It's a part of your process. It puts some pressure on your process, but it helps you to perform. You don't have this, we'll get it done when we get it done. That's not how it works. Okay. In my entire life, I was driven by timelines and driven by numbers. Remember, I started in the futures and commodities markets where the old saying was, you're only as good as your last winning streak, right? Always driven by the numbers. You know, people are always looking at your numbers, looking at your numbers, looking at your numbers. Speakers is always about your numbers. It's always about your numbers. So I kind of developed this mindset that it's about the numbers. And listen, with professional athletes, people can love you and like you, but if you're not putting up the numbers, that's going to be a problem. Don't you agree? Right? And people, they go and recruit you, not because, you know, they like your communication skills. They recruit you because they like your numbers. In fact, they love your numbers. You know, there's been people in athletic sports that have just been like, you know, basket cases that needed to be tamed like animals in the circus, but they got them and they worked with them because they loved the numbers they were able to put up, and they had to figure out a way to get them to work within the system. So, you know, it is about, you know, performance. And even if you take the parable of the talents, one got 5, one got 3, one got 1. The 5 multiplied, the 3 multiplied, the 1 buried it. He felt like, is this all I get? And then he buried it, and then he lost what it is he got, and it was given to those that multiplied. Listen, first commandment from God, be fruitful and multiply. God didn't say, chill. That wasn't the first commandment, not in the Bible that I've read. Like, hey, why don't you go chill out? You know, hey, you know, go on and relax, kick your heels up and chill. No, we want to multiply. That is basically a part of our genetics. Growing, expanding, and multiplying happens even if you do nothing. Think about it. Do you grow more hair for those that have it? Right? You know, well, for guys like me, we just grow deeper shadows. You know what I mean? Darker shadows that target. It's like a failed attempt to grow hair. You know what I mean? And you always cut it because you don't want the cul-de-sac to show up, right? But don't you automatically grow hair regardless of what you do? You grow new nails, you grow new skin cells, and all that other kind of stuff. Of course you do. Even if you're a lazy slouch couch potato, from a biological standpoint, there's always this multiplication, there's always this growth process that's always ongoing. That's because that's just how we are. So to go out there and be fruitful and multiply in other areas, just nothing wrong with that. So, but what we're going to do is, we don't want to succeed by chance. We don't want to succeed by accident. We want to engineer success, because success can be engineered. You don't have to be like, well, you know, let's see, you know, if I'm going to become successful at anything, no, we're going to make sure that we become successful at something. It's like, you don't just throw a bunch of stuff together and be like, let's see if that turns into a car. No, here's how cars are manufactured, right? You don't grab a bunch of parts and throw them in the air and see, let's see if that becomes a bike. No, you know there's a process for creating bikes. And to that same extent, to that same point, there's a process for you becoming successful. As long as you remain blind to that process, you'll never really be able to create what it is you ultimately want to create. Okay? So now 3 and 4, focus on processes and the performance. Okay? In other words, allow the outcome goal to take care of itself. You can revisit it and all this other kind of stuff, but I really believe a healthy obsession with improving the processes and improving our performance is really what serves the appetite of the goal. That's the thing. I know you thirst for it, but the appetite, that goal, that outcome that you want to have filled, the way to better serve it is to be aware of it, but to master the processes, to master and improve your overall performance. That there is where you are going to be able to get ultimately what it is you say that you want. Okay, now identify, when it says P&P goals, strategies, in other words, put together your strategies for how you're going to improve your performance. Put together your strategies for how you're going to master the processes. So you have your outcome goals, your performance goals, and your process goals. You also have your dates, your completion dates and your completion times for the outcomes, for the performances, and for the processes. But then you have the strategies for them as well. So what are the strategies that you're going to deploy to improve your performance? Like, for example, one simple strategy for a basketball player shooting free throws is like what Larry Bird used to do, where he would shoot 500 free throws, basically, allegedly from the record of him being, when he was in the NBA, he would shoot 500 free throws before breakfast. Now, first of all, that's discipline as well, right? But what he's doing is he is basically ingraining this habit inside of him to make sure that he is constantly improving his performance in the game to put up better numbers, to win games, outcome, by excelling at the process of shooting free throws. Like, okay, elbow in, process, fingers spread, where it becomes just automatic, excelling at the process, boosting the performance by doing 500 of them before breakfast every single day. Not when he feels like it, because remember, to improve your processes and to improve your performance, it can't be about feeling like it. Well, I don't feel like doing it. Well, who cares what you feel like doing? This isn't about what you're feeling. It's about what you're committed to. If you're committed to that outcome, then we need to also be committed to the performance and to the process. You're not going to all the time feel like engaging in the process. You're not going to all the time feel like doing anything to improve your performance. And that's okay. There is no error in not feeling like it. The error comes in when we allow the feelings to take over and hold hostage our commitment. Now, all of a sudden, we're not doing it because we didn't feel like it at the time. It didn't feel right. What's that all about? Even going back to the Bible never told us to feel something. It told us to believe something, right? It says believe. It didn't say feel it. This feeling stuff is stuff that we culturally brought into the entire thing, right? I'm feeling the spirit. Bible don't talk about that. It says believe, right? So the whole point here is that even if you don't feel like something in the moment, it's okay. It's not something's wrong. So don't think like, well, I don't have the feeling, so something is wrong. No, there's absolutely nothing wrong. What's wrong, if anything, is that you're depending on the feeling. And if we just remove the feeling from having to be a part of it and just engage in the process, engage in the performance, we'll be fine. All right? Now, number 5 and 6, all right? Stretch, don't break. Realistic, yet challenging. What does that mean? In other words, you want to have goals that stretch you, not break you, right? You want to have those goals that are really, really challenging, realistic enough for you to achieve. In other words, you want to play a winnable game. You don't want to set something that's like, wow, you know what? I'm going to lose 100 pounds overnight and you're not cutting off body parts. Well, that's going to be difficult, right? So, how are you going to possibly do that without basically, gutting yourself out? It's just not going to happen. But you want me to tell you something? That's ridiculous, and I know people don't really do that. But we kind of do that with other goals. Like the person who has never made a dime in their life, they've never done anything. It's like they're going to make $1 million in their first year. Is that possible? Yeah, but Guess what happens if they come up short? They get negative feedback, and for most people, is not received in a healthy way. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we play a winnable game. We set the standard, not somebody else, and we set goals that stretch us, but don't break us. I mean, it really takes us out there. It's like, oh man, I got to get off the couch for this one. You know, there ain't no, can somebody find the remote control for me? Is I'm going to go get the remote, right? Metaphorically speaking, for television, right? But the whole thing is it's not there on your lap. You have to go out there and you have to get it. You got to get some sweat on your brow. It's like, is that perspiration? Yep. That means you're in the right process, because you ain't going to holler sweat sitting there hoping that it falls into your lap, running your lotto tickets and all this other kind of stuff. Come on, man. You got to go out there and make it happen. Make that thing happen. Yeah, it's going to be some grit that's involved. There's going to be some sweat that's involved. There's going to probably be some blood that's involved and a whole bunch of other debris as a result of it. The question is it worth it? And the answer is a resounding absolutely yes, it is worth it. Okay? So make sure you set a goal that is, but here's the thing that I want to give you as it relates to that. Most people don't really go for what they want. They go for what they think they can get. That's the truth. Just evaluate your life. Most people don't go for what they really want. They go for what they think they can get. And in most people, what they think they can get is so small. It's so small. It is absolutely ridiculous. Now, how does that happen for people? Well, they get the beat down from their inner circle. How many times have you had a goal? You got excited about something. Now, notice when you get excited, you're by yourself, right? So there's nothing toxic in the environment to tell you, don't you get excited about that. So you're excited about yourself, you know, all by yourself about this thing, whatever that thing is. It may be the new diet program. It may be the business idea. It may be whatever it is. And then you take it to somebody. It's like, I'm going to accomplish X, Y, and Z. And then they tell you, be realistic. Ever had that happen before? Your be realistic friends. Well, first of all, realistic expectations are not the same as low expectations, all right? Realistic expectations and low expectations, oh no, not the same thing. They're not the same thing, okay? Now, another thing is, all right, when a person tells you to be realistic, they are not revealing how big your dream is as much as they're revealing how small their mind is. Unfortunately, what most people do is they start to trim down the dream to fit into the peapod mind of their inner circle. They're reduced to pretty much nothing. They're reduced to basically the vapors and the fumes of what used to be this burning flame of this big thing that they wanted to accomplish. Why? Because they allowed that dream to be extinguished by the people around them. For some reason, they practice by default or through a deliberate act. Now, I want you to catch me here. They practice adultery. They idolize their inner circle so much that they value their opinion over their own opinion or what they can accomplish. Why else would they ever change their mind? Why else would they ever do something different? We somehow and for some reason put other people undeservingly on these pedestals that all of a sudden what they say about you, me, us, our past, our present, our future is more important than one, what God says, and what we say. As if there's some process. Well, you have a dream. We need to call a town hall meeting. We need to vote on your dream. Listen, the only signature you need for you to have permission to pursue your dream is your signature. You vote yourself in. Nobody else's vote even matters unless you say it matters. And unfortunately, we tend to filter our dream through the opinions of other people. Asking them, do you think I should do this? First of all, you got to remember, most people will never give you permission to do something they won't even give themselves permission to do. And another thing is if you take a great idea and a big dream to somebody that makes them feel uncomfortable, it's better for them to knock you down to a place where they're most comfortable with your thinking. And that's what a lot of people tend to do, because your ambitions remind them about what it is they haven't accomplished. It does. It really, really does. It reminds them of the dreams they have abandoned. Your ambitions, when vocalized, will remind everybody that has suffered around you in silence about the dreams they have abandoned for whatever their reasons are. And then there's just a part of them that just comes out, and then you're seeking their approval and they'll never give it to you. They'll never give it to you. Never ask for somebody to give you something that you can give yourself, which is love, approval, and all this other kind of stuff. Because if you do, then all of a sudden, guess what? You become pretty much a slave to their opinion, a slave to their thoughts. And that's not the place that we want to be. And number 6 is feedback loops to monitor, evaluate, and improve. How do you know if you're getting better? It's kind of like if you're driving, and I've driven long distance many times. You know, you pop in the GPS, and then it tells you miles to go. Well, you know what? That's feedback. It lets you know how you're doing. Most people know where they want to go, and forget the process and the performance. They still, that aside, they still have no other real measures that lets them know how they're performing, other than, have I reached the goal? Which, by the way, is not necessarily the right rule of measure when you're talking about the process, because there's all these other incremental measurements and incremental contributions to the bigger objective. What we want to do is we want to measure everything. Like in football, it's like we want to win the game. In fact, well, first of all, they want to win the Super Bowl. Football season's just started. Everybody is gunning for the Super Bowl, right? Which shows you the flaws in the law of attraction, which I used to be a big believer in, but I'm not going to go ahead and bust anybody's bubble, because you have all these different teams in the NFL attracting the Super Bowl trophy, the Lombardi Super Bowl trophy, and only one of them is going to get it. There is not enough inventory for the law of attraction to work. Trust me. Just not enough inventory. All right. But that's another conversation. OK, we're not even go down that path. We'll go down that path later. Why I believed it at first, and then how I converted, and what I can, and all this other kind of stuff. But that's for another time. OK. Anyway, so you have all these football teams, right? And they want to win the Super Bowl. Well, how do you do it? Well, first of all, you need to get to the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl. Well, how do you get to the playoffs? Well, you have to win enough regular season games. Well, how do we win enough regular season games? Well, we win them one game at a time. Well, how do we win them one game at a time? Well, what we need to do is put more points on the scoreboard when the time is out in the fourth quarter than our opponents. Well, how do we do that? We need to get touchdowns. Well, how do we do that? We need to move the ball down the field 100 yards. Well, how do we do that? 1 yard at a time. That's why when a guy gets 5 yards, he gets up with his chest out, spinning the ball, and all that. Or he gets a first down, and he's like, you would think it's like a touchdown. No, it's an example of celebrating progress, not just celebrating the arrival. Can you imagine if in football everything was just about celebrating the touchdown? A person gets a first down, and they just get no emotion, no celebration. Where's the energy? They're reserving all of this energy for the touchdown. No, whatever incremental progress you make is worthy of celebration, because it's progress. That's what it's all about. It's progress. And progress means you are a whole lot closer to where you want to go and a whole lot further from where you started. Celebrate the progress, no matter how small. No matter how small. No matter how small. Like people are like, all I made was $1. Well, all you need is 1 million of those, right? Or whatever your number is. So you made one. Let's replicate it. Let's keep it going. They minimize $1. They think, oh, that's just small. So we have all these, again, we have all these different things and how we're going about measuring stuff. We're in a completely different environment, right? Think about it. A $10 domain houses multi-billion-dollar corporations. A long time ago, they were like multi-million-dollar buildings that were housing those billion-dollar corporations. What do you think happens to Amazon if they were, for some outrageously strange reason, were to lose Amazon.com or Amazon. COUK, or Google were to lose Google.com, listen, first of all, that even happening is like far out there, but just think about how important that $10 domain is. And I tell people, when a person registers a domain, that is cause for celebration, because if Google didn't have a domain, there would not be google.com that we go to and we search for. There would not be amazon.com that we go and buy stuff from if there was no amazon.com domain. So while it may be a small thing, it's one of the things that's a necessity. Sufficient within itself? No, but a necessity is a part of the process. So the whole thing is being able to understand and appreciate the entire process, okay? So make sure you have in place something that's monitoring what it is you're doing, that is evaluating what it is you're doing, so that you can understand where you are versus where you want to be and where you started, and then you can constantly improve and get better and get better and get better and get better, right? Very important. Okay, so now number 7. Number 7 is some free Evernote workflow templates. Let me show you real quickly here what it is I am talking about. All right, so I have these Evernote workflow templates for you. All right, I'm just going to give you a quick example so you can see. All right, so there's like about 20, just over 20 of these, okay? So, I mean, you name it. I have all these, and all you do is you just import these into Evernote, okay? So let's just say you were coming over here and you are going to do, let's see. And also there's some, not just checklists and workflow templates, there's also documents in here and stuff that you can use as well. All right, let's just say you're gonna do your mobile thing. All right, so you come over here and you go to the mobile one, all right? And then once you have that part done, you just click on it and it's done. You have that part done, it's done. This one's done, this one's done. So all you do is you just go through each one of these, look at which ones you wanna use for your business. And what it does is it automatically has for you the workflow for all these different things. These are in the format to be imported immediately into Evernote, which is a free tool that you're able to get. And I also have in a zip file, a quick link where you can go and get Evernote for free. There's a premium version. And I love Evernote. I can do an entire training on how to use Evernote. There's people that run entire companies on Evernote. There's a free version and a premium version. There's just over 20 of these workflow templates that you'll be able to put into Evernote. Let's just say you have a coaching business or you want to start one. Here's an entire business checklist for workflow for setting up your coaching business. So there's a lot of cool stuff in here for you to be able to use, okay? So if you want to get that, all you have to do is go over to successsculpting.com/Evernote, all right? And those are readily available for you to download, all right? So some really, really cool stuff for you to use. Again, just go over to successsculpting.com/Evernote.
Okay, so there you have it. 7 ways of making goals work for you. Hopefully, you understand now from episode 1 and here in episode 2 why it is goals are good, but at the same time, if we don't have the proper interaction with goals, how those goals can ultimately lead us down a path of perpetual failure. All right. Now, to recap real quickly, what those 7 things are is 1, have your outcome, performance, and process goals. Not just the outcome goals, which is something that we tend to have an obsession over, which is what are we going to ultimately get and what is it we ultimately want? We want to make sure that we have those performance and process goals, which really lead to us being able to produce that outcome that we're looking for. Also, have target dates of completion. That's number 2. Have the target dates of completion, and not just on the calendar from a holistic view, from that top view of by the end of the year. That's great. Or by the end of 6 months, or maybe the end of 5 years. Those are all great, but we want to make sure that we have those target dates and target times of completion in terms of the short-term time frame. Like, what are you planning on having completed by the end of this week, by the end of today, by lunchtime? All right. So we want to make sure that we're driving our performance within those processes by having those dates and times of completion as well. All right. In addition to that, we want to focus on the processes and performance. That's number 3. See, it becomes easy for us to create these vision boards and all these different things that can keep the outcome that we say that we want in front of us. And that's great. But that thing is not going to just come about by itself, right? What's going to help it happen? What's going to actually produce it? Well, it's going to be the mastering of certain processes and the performance that we produce within those processes. And just like we covered in that segment, if we get really clear on what the outcome it is we want, but yet we look to master those processes that's going to produce those outcomes, and we constantly measure our performance and we look to improve our performance, listen, let me tell you something, the outcome is going to take care of itself. So we want to make sure that we're focusing on the processes and the performance, all right? And the fourth thing that we talked about is identifying process and performance goal strategies, all right? And we're going to do a whole episode on this right here, but just real quick, because we did talk a little bit about it in the segment, but we want to make sure that we have goals set for those processes and performances, but we also want to have strategies that we're going to be using to go about doing that, right? Now, I gave you the example in the segment about Larry Bird, shooting 500 free throws prior to breakfast every single day while he was active in the NBA. Well, that was one of his strategies to master the process of shooting free throws and to improve his overall free throw performance so that he can have the outcome that he was looking to have in his NBA career from one game to the next, from one season to the next. All right. And we're going to talk about strategies in terms of process strategies and performance strategies in another upcoming episode. All right. Now, the fifth thing we talked about is stretch, don't break, realistic yet challenging. And what that ultimately means is that whatever our goal is, we want to make sure that it moves us out of that zone of comfort. We want to make sure that it really puts us out there and that it actually makes us feel a little uncomfortable. It makes us feel a little uneasy. It does, make our mouth go a little bit dry or makes our palms sweat or maybe it gets some sweat on our brow or something. But all of a sudden, it makes us come alive. We don't want to go for what we think we can get. We want to go for what it is we say that we really want. And let me tell you something, what it is you want is going to require you to do things other than what you have done to bring you up to this particular point. And that's why the focusing on those processes and those performance goals are really important. So you do want to have something that's out there that really stretches you, but it doesn't break you. And the breaking point we're talking about is that there's a breakdown in confidence, there's a breakdown in self-esteem, there's a breakdown in your vision because you set this goal that was so big and so outrageous that without realizing it, you really set yourself up to lose as opposed to setting yourself up to win. And we don't want to put ourselves in that position. We want to engineer for ourselves a winnable game, a game that we know is going to really challenge us, stretch us, but it's not going to break us to the point where we feel like giving up because we set this thing out there that was just totally outrageous, all right? So that's where the realistic but yet challenging comes in at. Now, as I stated in that segment, realistic expectations are not the same as low expectations. Realistic goals are not the same as mediocre goals. We want to have goals that we know that we can go out there and reach, but it's going to require us to go do some work. It's going to challenge us. It's like the person that wants to lose 100 pounds. Is it possible to lose 100 pounds? Absolutely. But you know what? It's going to require a change of habits. It's going to require a change of mindset. It's going to require a change of lifestyle, doing things that were not previously done, like working out. You don't necessarily lose 100 pounds without making changes in your diet and making changes in how much moving you're doing, more specifically, moving in the gym. So it's going to be a challenge. You're going to sweat. You're going to get tired. You're going to get a little bit sore. But is the goal realistic? Absolutely. But realistic also doesn't just mean the outcome. It also means the time frame. Losing 100 pounds overnight is not necessarily going to be that possible. So what happens is you now put yourself at the breaking point because you set this goal while realistic in its totality that, yes, you can lose 100 pounds. It was not realistic in the time frame. And I think that's where many people kind of get these conflicts where there's a mismatch in the outcome that's desired and then the time that is not desired within. See, if you have that mismatch, you can find yourself at this breaking point. And we're going to cover that a little bit later when we talk about in a later episode where we talk about perspectives and orientations. All right. But the one thing we want to make sure that we have properly aligned is a realistic outcome as well as a realistic time frame to achieve that outcome. All right. So again, that's something that we want to make sure that we are keeping in our focus in terms of the goals. And this is what I mean by proper goal setting. looking at everything that is involved with you being able to hit that goal, all right? And it's something that you can achieve, but yet it's going to challenge you to achieve it, and that's the great part, all right? That's the great part. It really has us to step up and really allows us to tap into what it is we are really engineered to be and do and to have, because we all have that stuff in us. And it's like you've probably heard me say before, if you've been to any of my live events, that we're all made of the same stuff. We just don't use the stuff the same way, all right? Now, the sixth thing was the feedback loops to monitor, evaluate, and to improve your performance. Listen, in today's environment, if you're going to do something, you're going to accomplish something, you want to be something, you want to contribute in some certain way, there's going to be things that you're doing. And in all of that doing, you want to make sure you're monitoring it, because monitoring it allows us to know, hey, where are we versus where we want to be? Where are we right now versus where we want to be? We get to evaluate our level of performance. We get to evaluate how we're doing within the process. And we also get to evaluate where we are right now versus where we want to be with that outcome goal. All right. Without that level of evaluation, we're going to be lost. And that sometimes hurts us, because if we're not evaluating our performance, we don't know what we need to do more of, what we need to do less of. We don't know what we're doing great with, what we're doing bad with. And we also don't understand where we are, where we can be winning, but because we're not evaluating it, we think we're losing. So we give up and we bail out, and as a result, we actually snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory, and we don't want to do that. So it's really important for us to monitor everything that's going on, evaluate it, not judge it, just evaluate it, and then that's where the improvement comes in, that we can make the necessary improvements. Should I do more of this or less of this? Should I add this or subtract this? What's working, what's not working? All right, so that's very important. If we're not monitoring anything that we're doing, if we're not evaluating how we're performing, and if we're not making improvements, then it almost becomes nearly impossible for us to accomplish anything that we say that we want. Listen, even going back to the weight loss scenario, when you're losing weight, especially if you're working with a personal trainer, you would expect that personal trainer to be monitoring your results, evaluating where it is you are, and helping you to improve your overall workout, as well as your daily dietary menu and supplement intake, to help you to reach your outcome goals. Well, why would it be any difference in building a business, building better relationships, or pursuing something big in academics? It isn't any different. Okay, if you're building your house, you certainly are monitoring everything that's going on, evaluating everything that's going on, and making necessary adjustments and improvements along the way. All right? Okay, and we will go into that a little bit deeper in some later episodes. And number 7 was improve your workflow with some free Evernote workflow templates that I've made available to you. Again, that address to get those is successsculpting.com/Evernote. That's EVERNOTE. Again, that's successsculpting.com/Evernote. Now, because when I was talking about that, it was from the video live stream, you heard me talking in such a way where I was showing something on the screen, so I do apologize about that. But you will be able to get full access to that exact same pack of Evernote templates, which is still available for download at successsculpting.com/Evernote. All right? So I really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Success Sculpting Show. We have a whole lot of great stuff coming up for you. I want you to stay tuned for episode 3, where there's going to be, well, put it like this. You do not want to miss episode 3. Now, while you're here, we'll love to get your feedback on the show. You can make comments here on the blog. You can give us a call at our voicemail line. We would love to hear from you. If you have any questions you would like for us to answer it on the show, if you have any comments you would like for us to share on the show, by all means, talk back to me, because your voice is important. This community is about helping you to sculpt a more meaningful and memorable life. And on that note, I'll see you on episode 3 of the Success Sculpting Show with yours truly, Stephen Pierce.
Thanks for listening to the Success Sculpting Show with Stephen Pierce. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, successsculptingshow.com, to your friends and colleagues. Be sure to check out our archives of previous podcasts and check the schedule to join us for our next live streaming Success Sculpting Show webcast. This has been a Success Sculpting Incorporated production. Join us next time for another edition of the Success Sculpting Show with Stephen Pierce, and tell your friends.